talk to your DM, get the basis of the game that you're going to be playing, and then you start with the character concepts, because when you go to session 0, you want at least 3 ideas of just base characters that you might want to play, and just see how it goes once you get to that session.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that idea of like, don't overcommit before you've had a chance to sort of sit down. I I have done that a couple of times, not even as a new player, where like somebody will give me again a campaign concept, like we're playing in a low magic sort of harbor setting, a fishing town, and I will just get so committed to a very specific person. And this is an actual example of something that happened recently. I got so committed to a very specific person, ended up playing a character that just like didn't believe in magic, and the campaign setting took a really hard early turn into high magic, and he just was so out of place. And I eventually had to retire it because it was just like, he believes in magic now, but like at what cost, right? Like his
Yeah.
like curmudgeonly attitude just isn't relevant anymore. So I love that. I love that like don't overcommit, have some options, be flexible going in, I think is really important. Yeah,
And
I think that's great.
other players are going to help you. Like one of the Wednesday game that I play every week, the main character that I play, we had 3 new players that had never played D&D at all before, and then
Yeah.
three players that had. My son has played in some games, but me and my other friend have been playing for a while, so
Yeah.
we kind of like took them in. And to be honest, they're all 3 of them are artists, and they're some of the best players that I've seen, because they come up with these incredible things for their characters to do.
Sure.
They came out of the gate strong with character builds, and really understanding subclasses and how your race is going to assist in your class depending on what you choose, like
That
the
sort of mechanical
complicated,
thing, yeah.
the veteran player
Yeah.
stuff that you usually see.
Sure.
They came out with.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's really great. I've got a great question from Emily here that I adore. Oh, and I didn't out of print. Same advice. Don't overcommit. Emily, are there any tropes that you try to avoid, or hate seeing in character creation? The fuck racial essentialism. Fuck racial essentialism.
Yeah.
I think we're all friends here, right? We can all agree on that. Uh, play the race class combination you think is interesting. Use Tasha's, leverage custom backgrounds, leverage custom lineages. It's kind of
Yes.
a middling solution to that problem, but like truly don't say like, oh, I can't play a sneaky rogue Goliath, right? Like that's just you can't, right? Like live your best life. Above and beyond that, I'm curious. Thoughts? Any tropes that you try to avoid when you're creating characters?
um I don't think past the level we're starting at, and I
Oh,
kind of
okay.
so I try not to put too much on what this future character is going to be, because I let the game and the DM and myself
Yeah.
all shape this character as they're going to come out to be, because you don't know what you're going to run into.
Yeah.
You don't know what's going to happen in this game. One of your best friends in the game might be a druid, and you might learn to wild shape. You might take a level in druid. You don't know. So,
Awesome.
yeah. And then I got a question that says, what do you think about
Cool.
using books besides the basics? Definitely use different books besides the basics, but if you're just
Yeah.
starting out, go with the basics and just know how to move, what your movement speed means, and what your stats mean. You know, just the
Yeah.
basics.
Yeah. Um, yeah, it's interesting. How, rules beyond the basics is such an interesting thing in sort of the D&D Beyond world, where you've got individual purchases that you can make out of books. I know I've bought like Loxodon and not the book that Loxodon came from, right? Like that kind of
Yeah.
thing. And then there's so much homebrew. There's so much homebrew that like it can get overwhelming, right? So unless I think, it when you're starting, basic books are the way to go. Um, if a player has something specific that they want to bring to the table, like, oh, hey, I want to play a crab person, I want to play a lizard person, like pull something, if you could make an individual pull. But like definitely don't expect everyone at the table to have read all 85 source books.
Well, yeah, or if they're pulling from different sources, they might not have read the entire book. Like, I was playing a character for a little while without knowing that I could have switched racial stats. I didn't know that. And the GM came along and was like, "Why do you have this stat like that? You don't need that boosted. Just boost something else." And I was like, "What?
I can
What do
do
you mean?
that.
Stop being so nice to me." And they were like, "Oh no, I'm not. I'm totally trying to murder you later, but you can do this if you need to."
My first character in 5e, because the races in 5e are fairly different from the races in 3.5, which is what I had played most recently to 5e. My first character in 5e was a non-variant human, which about 3 sessions in, my DM was like, "Why? Like this isn't helping you at all. This is not good." And so yeah, I mean, definitely if you constrain the number of books you have to read, that'll help you understand the nuances of what's available to you. You won't get so overwhelmed. I think that's generally a good idea.
Yeah.
Um, Man, we are just getting all kinds of questions today. I love all of you. You're all phenomenal. Craig's got a question for us. Jaw-dropping PC moment of character growth. And I have one of these and I love it. But please, if you've got one, go for it.
Yeah, like, so the character that I play every week, Finny, her background is that she came from a cloister, like a very small church,
Cleric or monk?
cleric.
Cleric, cool.
And it's Tempest clerics, so they're very much war trained. And she was basically ran through this military like training as a child, and didn't really have a whole lot of closeness with people. So, without giving away anything, because I don't really talk about our game or the other characters too much, after we came together, and I'm just going to put quotes around it because if they're watching, they'll know. After we came together, she was like, did not want to be alone, and these people were just with her, and they, like, some of the girls all like bunked down together, and she didn't know what to do. So she like just curled up, and then in the morning, all of the girls were like, because they have a dragonborn and two tieflings, so we're like cuddled up to this heaty lizard lady, and it was like this profound moment that she had actually found real friends, and it wasn't just this very militarized, very practiced, learn your Latin, go to prayer lifestyle that she had come from, and it was like really, she turned into like a really like super friend. Like, I will literally take this hammer and put it in between you and anything that comes in your way. Like, she got really into the friendship.
That's really good. Oh, that's
Yeah.
really good. I love that. Oh man, that's phenomenal. Um, yeah, mine is not, I think, quite so heartwarming. um, so in my longer running game right now that I'm actually a player in as opposed to a GM. I play. This is the one where I play the Indiana Jones Goblin. And the build for that goblin has, up till very recently, been full College of Eloquence Bard. The way that he sort of navigates the world is through really high history and investigation. And all of his spells were, I think, entirely enchantment. They were all like calm emotions and friends and all of the other like stuff that we in the real world realize should probably be war crimes style, like sort of mental manipulation.
Yeah.
And slowly but surely, our DM started dripping in the consequences of that being his sole like resource, his sole way of interfacing with the world, such that very recently, there was an automaton that we were interacting with, that had been the victim of some like magical gaslighting that was a sort of the big bad's responsibility, right? And this automaton like realized it, freaked out on the party because the party was sort of the immediate threat there. And my character immediately tried to calm emotions, which didn't affect the automaton, and was truly just trying to like get a handle on the situation, right? Like wasn't trying to be manipulative. But this automaton who had just been the victim of gaslighting just realized that she was the victim of gaslighting, then kind of deflects this calm emotion spell and was like, "What the hell were you thinking? Why did you think that was an okay thing to do to a person? Right?
Oh,
Like this is not okay." And now is like actively antagonizing the party and is like, we had to fight her. She got away. She like stole our ship, and all of it comes to rest on my character like not understanding that you just can't manipulate people, and it is like in the process of going through the growth of like, okay, no, like we have to find a better way to interface with the world.
yeah, yeah. We have a couple of people like that are just I love it to watch whenever they figure out like you can't just punch people or something, or you can't just cast those spells on people. That's the
Right.
moment.
Yeah,
Like
it's so good.
like my character right now, like two of them are
Yeah.
definitely going to be hit first.
Right.
Hey Andrea. But they're gonna be hit first, ask questions later type. And actually my son plays a Warforged in the one game, and his
Yeah.
character has to be like, Finny, no. We have
Oh,
to
that's
talk.
a fun dynamic.
Yeah. We have to talk first. You can't do that. And I know that
That's
one of
good.
that Ari, I don't want to say her name wrong. I'm just gonna say Andrea. She had asked earlier to go over like the basics of D&D, and like what it is, because she hadn't played in a really long time and was
Ooh.
interested. So,
Yeah.
um, I mean, the basics. It's a role play game, but you're rolling on chance. You're using dice to make decisions, and that can sometimes be good or bad. So, there's like the base set of rules, and oh, she said over 30 years. She hasn't played in over 30 years.
Who?
Yeah.
Uh, 30 years. That would be what, the 90s? I don't,
Yeah.
was it 3? AD&D? What was out in the 90s? It was a little before
Um,
my time.
that was three. That's when I started
Yeah.
actually playing. Was it? Yeah.
I feel like the game has not changed all that much from 3, right? Like it's definitely still in the same universe of like you assert what you want your character to do, your DM will tell you to make a check or use a specific skill or use an ability that's baked into your class, and you'll roll a d20, add some relevant modifiers and try to get above a certain number. Success is above, failure is not. Um I think that the big difference with 5e is that they've radically simplified sort of how that all comes together, which has been really, really valuable.
Yeah, yeah. It's been a change. Because like I don't know, we had a really rough time in three. We had a bunch of people playing. A lot of
Yeah.
people TPK'd our party a lot. Like it was a lot of times, and I just remember in so then now every time we go into a battle, I'm like, okay, I have to like just don't die, just don't die, just don't die.
The trauma.
Yeah, I'm traumatized from three. And then
Yeah.
Dragon Fett said that AD&D, I guess he's talking about me being twitchy. I am a little ADHD. Thank you.
um so out of print actually asked, I think, a relevant question on top of that, going all the way back to sort of 3 in the 90s. How did you get started in RPGs?
Somebody drugged me into a shed one night and handed me a dice.
Wow, that's a hell of a way to start that session.
It's not a joke at all. Like they have a shed that's behind their house
Oh
that's set up with a
boy.
mini bar and a giant table. And I
Right.
was, you know, I was like, fine. I was in my 20s. I didn't really care.
Sure.
They handed me some dice and a piece of paper, and I was like, this is super weird, but I'm like into it. And I think I started out playing like a human paladin or a human cleric or something, and then I died right away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That seems right. That seems right. That's how those games work. First level, you just die and then you
And
make a new character.
yeah, I was addicted to the game, so I played a whole lot more. And I'm actually the in-person game that I play is with the same GM from way back then, like the same guy.
Oh, wow. That's really cool. Oh, that's dope. I do not have such long running friendships.
Oh yeah, it's kind of crazy, but yeah, it's been a really long time that we've known each other. We just recently started playing again because he realized that
Awesome.
Landon was into games, and he's like, "Let's do this. Let's just."
That's so great. That's really cool. Um, yeah, my initiation was not quite as dramatic. Um, Mine was definitely like I was a theater kid in high school, picked up this thing, was like, hey, this is interesting, and then this was 3.5, and then into fourth ed when I was in high school. And so like it was a lot of math nerds, right? It was a lot of people who really sort of got off on memorizing every single one of the 500 3.5 rule books, and like beating the DM.
Yeah,
And so it was just like it was awful. I had very little fun playing sort of back in the day. And then in college, a really close friend of mine and I actually started picking up other sort of simpler role play games, and we started like experimenting with kind of making our own role play systems that we thought were a little bit more approachable. Um, and eventually that kind of turned into like trying Pathfinder, and then that didn't quite work, and then Fifth Ed came out, and it was like, oh, they finally made this like I'm going to commit heresy here, but playable. um,
at least an understandable, I think, because like back in 3 and 3.5, you kind of like all of the guys that had to know the entire book, like you kind of needed to in a way, because if not, you really would just get totally bowled over.
Exactly. And the whole point of the game, the framing from the way that the rules worked was very like party versus DM, right? Like the DM was throwing big challenges at you, and you were supposed to be clever and like know the rules and be able to strategize around them. And there's some element of fun to that, right? Like I understand the value there. But at the end of the day, the stuff that I've always deeply enjoyed is like character work
Yeah,
and just like telling a good story. And when that was just a much harder thing to do in some of those older systems that has gotten way way easier with 5e and with the
yeah.
sort of first early waves of sort of the indie scene and everything. um yeah, for sure.
Then, do people play more in person or online? And lately, it's been a lot more online, I think, for a lot of people because of the situations out in the world. And there's actually a lot more, in my opinion, access these days to getting into parties and games with Discord and Roll 20.
Yeah.
Before COVID, yeah, it was you can definitely, like, I meet with people, but we meet once a month, and all of us are vaccinated, and it's kind of the only place we really go. So that's the one time we go out of the
Yeah.
house for anything really. And before COVID, yeah, I would meet with people and game up if we could get enough people together on the right nights. I think that um online gives me personally, because of work and school, a little
Mhm.
bit of freedom to
Yeah.
play at the right times.
Yeah, I would definitely say as much as I love playing in-person games, and I recently just did a finale session to my sort of 18-month long pirate game that was one of the it was truly like the event an event that I will remember for the rest of my life. It was a magical experience. Um Online games are just better, and I say that with like a very specific definition of better, which is you can actually play them. I'm sure a lot of people can agree here that like it's hard to find like four people with a consistent schedule that are interested in this hobby in your geographical area. The game that I'm going to start running tomorrow, actually, we have a player in we have three players spread all across Georgia, one player in Boston, and one player in London. So like that's who came together to tell this to tell the story, play this game, and to try to limit ourselves to who's within a couple blocks of us that we could meet regularly
Yeah,
regardless of vaccination would just change that dynamic. It would make it a lot harder. And so I think that I love in-person play. I mean, it sounds like you do as well,
Yeah.
but I'm so glad that people have started picking up online play because it's made it so much more accessible.
Yeah, and it's really wonderful because like our friends that we play with on Wednesday, these are all people that we know, and some of them had moved to Texas like prior to the pandemic.
Yeah,
They had moved. So we hadn't really had a whole lot of contact like to see them a whole lot, and now we get to see them every week on
right,
Zoom.
right.
So
It's not
really good.
the same, but it's so much better than nothing for
Yeah.
sure.
And it gives me a totally
Um,
to like schedule out social time and actually talk to people but in character. So
yeah.
it counts.
Um, we got another question. Better redhead than dead. I just love his username. I love saying it. Asks, do you ever let a PC skip a roll to do something that you just want to let happen or adjust the DC? I have answers to this, but
That would be
go
more
on.
along our lines because I have never DM'd a game.
Really? You should definitely
Yeah.
try. I think you would be very good at
Um,
it.
I might one day. I
Yeah.
might like my son is more interested in DMing than I am. And to be honest with you, he's very smart. He's gonna get it. But I
Fantastic.
I play my PCs to the letter. If they biff a roll, they biff a roll. It's
Um,
awful.
as a GM, thank you. We love and appreciate you and the people who play like you. Which I also try to do when I'm on my PC, right? Like if I fail a roll, I fail that roll. That's just what that means. But to answer the question, yes, absolutely. And I am very much of the opinion that most of the time, if a player just can't fit, like if you're coming up against the DC 10 and they've got like reliable talent and expertise, right? Like they just succeed. They just succeed. There's absolutely no rule necessary. Certainly, if they have been doing large story work to set up being able to do something, they're almost certainly just going to be able to succeed. I may try to figure out the passives if that's a relevant thing to be done, but for the most part, like, yeah, if there's something that should just happen in the world, it's not a roll. And that's part of the game is knowing when to call rolls and when not to call rolls so that you're constantly moving things forward.
Yeah, for sure.
Ooh, another good one. What are your opinions on DM NPCs? Which I think, Emily, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what you're saying is like when the DM creates like long-standing sort of player, long-standing characters that sort of represent their player at the table. Is that a fair interpretation of what you're asking? We Yes, cool. Yeah, so DM kind of injection player characters. Have you ever had that happen? Has a DM sort of injected themselves into an NPC as if they were playing them?
Yeah, and I absolutely love it.
Wow.
We have recurring DM NPCs that literally if we see a talking bush, and that's the only hint I'm gonna drop on this guy. If we see a talking bush, the entire party will freak out like McDonald's like is on the menu. They will literally lose it. So yeah, we love him.
That's awesome. I also like that I think that's interesting because that very specifically feels like it's leaning into the DM as an entity, like almost like a deity at the table. Which I love. That's great. That's funny as hell. Um, I think my interpretation, where my mind goes when I hear that question, is a little bit more like I've had DMs almost create like roll actual characters and inject themselves into the party to like play alongside the party. And this is kind of a tough balance because I generally think that specifically is not a good thing. But that line is kind of blurry, right? Like if a deity shows up frequently, like that could be really useful and good for your world, right? If you have long-standing NPCs, my last game had like one of the character's father figures, another character's uncle, a third character's love interest, like hung around the party fairly consistently.
Yeah.
Like that's potentially useful, and might make sense in the story. I think it's just sort of all about managing that screen time, right? The worst case scenario here is that your DM is sort of pulling all of the attention onto their character, which is what you want to not see happen.
If they're like purely support or something like that, I could see it happening, but I don't think we've had one that really interjects like into the party. Just
Yeah.
recurring figures that we recognize and trust. Probably not a good idea. Don't know yet.
Right. You'll
We
figure it out eventually, I'm
have the
sure.
types, but we don't have anybody that is played by the DM that is in our party. And
Right.
we like I think I made another video about how we have it's a heavy role play in the weekly game, and we have
Yeah.
an out of play role play chat in Discord where wherever we are staying that night, our characters can commingle and talk and potentially get into trouble,
Mhm.
which we
Yes, consequences.
yeah, we have had some pretty serious consequences from the RP chat because God is watching.
Turns out. Turns
he's,
out.
yeah, he's in there and he's watching, and he can
Do you?
also interact too. You know.
Yeah, absolutely. Do you like that? Because I've seen that done a fair number of times, and it's such an interesting thing for me because I'm so much a very like the table is the table and everything else is not. And I know that a lot of people aren't like that. Is that something that you like you use? You feel like you get a lot out of?
Yeah, yeah, we've actually gotten a lot of character development out of it.
That's awesome.
Purely between the inner workings of characters working together instead of just being
Yeah.
caught up in the adventure or the story.
Yeah.
We have moments to talk to each other about our past, to feel out the other characters in a situation to see what they might
Yeah.
react to, you know, and
Yeah.
as long as it doesn't generally involve too much like rolling or anything that's going to uh dig into the storyline. If it's just something to do with
Right.
us, we're exchanging information, it's generally fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the RP Discord is a great fix, and it also gives us a chance to figure things out sometimes because sometimes we don't know what we're going to do. So if we're all laying
Yeah.
campfire at night going, so hey, what do you think we should do next? It's a little bit easier to kind of get those things out of the way and not spend an
Absolutely.
hour of our session doing that conversation.
I I truly will just make my players take the hour. Maybe I'm terrible. But I like that a lot. I think that's really very smart, right? Like it's a much sort of if your crew is enthusiastic about that and like wants to put in the time in that way, that's a really great way to optimize use of time, honestly. I mean, it means that we are getting to sort of the big beats at the table and all the little stuff and the planning and the exposition and the
Yes.
sort of buttressing of character relationships all feels like it can happen kind of at its own organic pace, which I think is great. Um, much for me to think about there as I steal all of your great ideas.
And I mean, it is really great because, like I said, like, whoever your GM is, our GM can interject
Right.
visions to your characters or dreams or things that you might hear while you're asleep that
Ooh,
you might not be affected by, but you might hear it that might be relevant to the story the next time you come in.
I like that
Like
a lot.
we came up with the idea, but he's really utilized that to help the story. So
It helps that the players came up with the idea of having the role play chat, right? I feel like if the GM was just like, here's space, use it, like that's very hit or miss.
no,
But I
we
really
did it.
like, yeah,
We change the name of it every time we're at a different campsite. The name changes. Like, yeah, we're all very enthusiastic and pretty much like this morning because we played tomorrow night. So this morning it was a bunch of gifts about tomorrow's the day, and we're all planning.
right.
You know, so they're all very enthusiastic about it, and that totally makes it worth it. Like to have the RP chat and everything to put the time in. I have to let the cat in because
It is the cat's time.
she's just jealous because the dog's in here.
Jealous cat seems right.
Yeah.
Dan, you made it. Hello, Dan. Good to see you. Good to see you. We were just talking about RP discords or chat rooms that are sort of built for kind of the downtime. Sort of the players have in between sessions that allow them to strategize or kind of discuss, have conversations, expose backstory. DMs can inject interesting things like dreams, and sort of the balance of that. It's actually really interesting because I think that very few of my games actually end at like a campfire, right? Like most of, and that this is games that I play and run. Like most of the time, we're ending like in the middle of something. Um, and so I think that might be why nobody has ever been like, "Hey, let's have a downtime." It's because like we never have downtime. We're just constantly from one thing to the next. So that's an interesting thing to consider.
We've done pretty well so far with keeping within our time limits and actually landing at a place where,
That's
I
good,
mean, it might be hostile,
right?
you know,
But you can at
but
least get a rest in for sure.
right. And so there's that, and we just haven't run into the situation yet where we're actually not in a place like that. We generally, if
Mhm.
it's a huge combat, get into it.
Yeah. Craig's got another question here. Theater of the Mind or maps? Which do you play? Which do you prefer?
Maps, 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 maps.
Maps, just hands down. And do your GMs typically provide those pretty readily?
Yeah, and
That's
then
awesome.
the in-person game, we have lots of terrain and maps, and they're really big on
Ooh.
building their own terrain and things like that, so it's great.
Okay, that's the one place where it's like, oh no, in person hits different. Like that's very good.
Yeah, yeah.
um, for all of you maps people out there, I have two tools for you that you probably haven't heard of. Owlbear.rodeo is the best, simplest VTT if you're like me and won't use Roll20 because you're stupid and it's hard. Owlbear.rodeo. And the other one is 2 Minute Tabletop. 2 Minute Tabletop is an artist that does a tremendous amount of map oriented tokens and token ornaments, maps and play spaces that are all pay what you want. And they are extraordinarily good quality and all consistent within their art style across a huge variety of scenes and settings. I pretty much use those two tools exclusively. My answer is maps. I like Theater of the Mind, but it's really hard. Um, I have never had a table say that I do Theater of the Mind particularly well, and I've never played a game where I would say the DM does Theater of the Mind particularly well. It's hard.
Yeah, and not everybody has the same type of ability to imagine. Like,
Yeah.
I have a crazy imagination. I always have. I love art, and I'm like, into reading and stuff like that. So I have a really well-rounded imagination. Where some people are like,
Yeah.
"What? What are you talking about? 15 feet in the air? What does that even mean?" You
Yeah.
know. So a visual does help a lot of people. I just like maps, and I like the to be able to see how far I can go to
Right.
positioning. The battle aspect of a map just makes it better for me.
Especially for D&D, which is really really mechanic heavy, right? Like something like 80% of what monks do is eke out more movement, right? And so like if you're in Theater of the Mind and you're just kind of like, you're sort of close to them, it's like, well, you're just knocking off half of what monks do well here.
Yeah,
um Keeping
or
track of
rogues
those
need. Sorry, is it
exactly.
rogues needing to be sneaky?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. And so, especially in fifth ed or D&D in general, maps are really valuable, even if they don't necessarily capture all of the like. I will augment maps with Theater of the Mind, right? I will say like this is the nuance of what's happening within this little cloister of fistfights, right? Like here's where some chairs are upturned, and here's where some holes are in the ground that are not visible on the map. But using that map to be like, yeah, you're 35 feet away, not 30 feet away, is just like a critical thing in combat in fifth ed
Yeah,
that other games don't care so much about, but D&D really does. It really does matter.
those couple of feet will make or break you in some of those battles, though. Like that extra 5 feet of movement can mean so much.
Yeah. But again, there's no right way to play, right? So if you're playing a very low strategy, low tactics kind of game, you're playing very, very roll heavy, and your combat is, maybe not a big sort of orchestrated endeavor. It's more, sort of interpersonal skirmishes that happen to be violent. Like that's going to be a little different. But now we start wading into, is D&D really written for that? And the answer is no. But that's okay. You can do whatever the hell you want with D&D.
I mean, and it's really dependent on your GM and your players and how you, because
Exactly.
I know some people that are just like, I want to kill monsters and go in dungeons all day, and
Sword.
they're like not caring about the role play aspect of it very much.
Right. For sure. Yeah, most of your games, I think I heard you mention, are pretty role play focused, right? Is that
Yeah,
about
because
right?
I don't know. I used to do text role play in Yahoo when I was much younger back in the day.
Hell yes.
So
Hell yes.
on, and I'm probably gonna get murdered for this one, but that's fine. I was on IMView for like 5.5 years, like playing an avatar in an entire
Cool.
like thing, like yeah, all role play. So it's just been my gig apparently to just like role play, and D&D fits into that, and my bloodlust to hit things with a warhammer.
I was with you till that last one. I don't know that I've ever woken up in the morning and been like, Warhammer? Warhammer. Like,
Too far away, I can't reach it. I'm actually going to be doing a prop model of Finney's warhammer soon.
That's actually really cool. I'm a big fan of that. People who can do like actual cosplay blow my mind. Like, it's such a cool skill to have.
I've
Truly.
got just like I haven't done it yet. I was actually thinking about when I hit, if I hit 2K, or when I hit 2K, of
Oh, you're gonna get there.
doing a vampire dress up for everybody and doing a video of that, because I have like a whole wall full of witch, vampire, peasant, whatever stuff over there.
Hell
That's why
yes.
that's why the camera's pointed this way, because it's not organized over there. It's just a big wall of stuff. There's bones and glitter and
It's the workstation. It's got to feel lived in. It's got to feel worked in. Otherwise, what do you even have it for? That's awesome. I'm actually very excited about that. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That's very, very cool. The one character that I am kicking around, possibly doing some cosplay for, just because I feel like it would be fun to do duets with Quincy's Tavern with this character, is the Indiana Jones College of Eloquence Bard. His entire outfit is just like khaki suit, red shirt, blue bow tie. That's the whole thing. So it's like, I own those things. Like, I could just do this cosplay. But like, then I see people who are like, no, I'm going to do like a full suit of armor. And it's like, oh, okay, cool.
I don't think that I could play. I would have to get some paint or something to play either one of the tieflings. I could do the druid. I could do the druid pretty easily, but Finney has bull horns, and I have yet to see any, because they come out like bull horns.
Yeah.
And I don't have the. I have ram horns somewhere in the mess, but no bull horns, because that's a difficult one to find.
Yeah. Oh, I know nothing about cosplay. I don't even know the first thing about how you would think about getting horns. Google bull horns is probably not going to do it. Like,
they're definitely foam, and they're just really big and cantankerous. So when you have something like that on your head, you can't really. You don't have freedom of neck movement at all. You have to keep your head straight, move the top half of your body and stuff.
Truly. Yeah, that's a lot. It's a sacrifice, cosplay.
Yeah, it's
a
fun.
Sacrifice.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like, I don't sell anything. I make things, but I don't sell them.
Right.
Yeah, I can't even be talked into making things for people anymore because I'm like, oh no, no, no,
No,
no.
no, yeah. It truly like same, right? I was like until I fell ass backwards into this Hero Forge thing, which who knows if that has any legs for the future. Um, truly, I was just like, what do I like? I can't give anything away, right? Like, what do you want me? I'll write you a short story, I guess, something like
Yeah, yeah. Um, so that's
not
what I'm
not very
vampire.
visual. That's very cool. I'm very much looking forward to that cosplay. I think that's going to be very, very good.
And then I mean, I'm obviously gonna make some content on this hammer build whenever I get to it. School starts like in a few days, so these are all talks of future things that I might maybe
Yes.
time for. Depends on how
Yeah,
crazy this is get.
finding time for things is hard, as it turns out. Not an easy thing to do to like make time for a full ass cosplay for your TikTok followers, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh man, it's
And
actually
like
funny. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, it's hard to just like work and not play on TikTok all day, and then schoolwork's
Right,
coming, so I'm super
right,
careful.
right. It's the World of Warcraft problem all over again.
Yeah, beat the TikTok.
I was going through my notification. So the last like 4 days, my followers have doubled, and great, cool, awesome. I am deeply humbled. I'm very excited about everybody who's here. But the thing that's been less fun is that my comments are a war zone
Oh no.
because every more than everyone who has followed me, probably 3 times as many people have commented requesting that I do a Hero Forge for their character.
Oh
And
man.
so I have like 3,000 comments of people saying like people like ordering characters as if they were like off a menu. And like some of them look really, really cool, and I'm very excited to be able to do them. But truly, it's just like, how much time do you think I have to put into this, right? Like,
Yeah.
are you running the odds when you're commenting, or are you just hoping that I'll find your character attractive enough to do? And like, I'm grateful for it. It's going to be fun. It's a huge source of free inspiration and content for me, which is great. And everyone's characters are really interesting. But oh my god, like the expectation of being able to do even a tenth of these is just no, right? Like I don't have that kind of, I can get through one every day or so. Who's to say?
Just like random and make somebody's day. Like that's the only way to be able to
That is
actually do it properly.
exactly the goal. 100%, 100%. Which hopefully it does. These are silly little things, and that's, I mean, that's, if you are not a small, Etsy store creator, right? Like, what do you try to do? You're trying to hopefully make somebody's day.
Yeah,
So
that's why
perfect.
it's like I said, going live was a little bit weird because I
Yeah.
do spiral off with talking, and they'll end up being 3-minute videos every time. Hey, Fate Coder, how you doing? And then so I had to be careful. I was like, I had to make sure that I'm not going to spin out and talk about the cat for 20 minutes or the dog or uh, when I'm making a video, I can literally stop it, go do something else and come back, or delete it if I don't like it. Because like the other day I was doing one and it sounded great, but the guy next door
Yeah.
turned on a tractor. So I was in the middle of it and I was like, it came out really good. And then that guy turned on a tractor and then I'm just like, well, oh, I got to delete that.
That's so annoying.
Yeah.
Oh, and also such a specific rural problem. Oh my god.
Oh no,
Oh my god.
did you see the corn dog video yet? It's from Friend Zone.
No, I haven't. But I will go look it up because that sounds
Oh look,
fantastic.
Becca, she's in my chat over
Yeah.
here. She's one of my Wednesday night player characters with
Hello.
me. That's our
Um,
dragonborn that keeps us warm at night.
that's awesome. Tyler. So Tyler Henderson, who's one of the most attractive people on this app. Don't lie to yourself. said that he is jealous of he's jealous of both of our luscious locks. Which, thank you, but
I just all
don't
of
lie to
this
yourself.
like I had like 4.5 feet of hair that I cut off last year. So yeah, it was luscious, but I can't with the this is
I need to do the same.
yeah.
Truly,
Yep.
like it is nauseatingly long. It is a
Yeah,
problem. I have had a hair appointment scheduled for like 3 times, and it keeps getting canceled because COVID is a nightmare.
yeah, we have one for Saturday because my child also grows monster hair like I do.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so Saturday we have to both go get cut because I have the back of my head like underneath shaved for like
Oh,
because I have fibro because I saw your video the other day actually. So I have
yeah,
fibromyalgia, so I have to
yeah,
like put medication on my neck and I can't. There's hair, I can't get to it,
yeah.
and it
No,
costs
absolutely.
to have more hair. The heavier it is, the more pain than I was getting in my neck. So I just cut it
Right.
all off.
That's totally reasonable. I mean, hell, it looks good. Your hair looks very good.
Yeah,
you're getting TikTok comments on it, so that's got to mean something.
I know. I
Um,
think I was gonna get any viewers. I was so nervous. I was like, nobody's gonna come watch me babble. My
I
redneck.
I have been delighted at sort of it's never too many people, right? It's never like 100 people at a time, but truly like you get 3 or 4 people, usually your friends, who just come hang out for a little bit, and it's just a lot of fun. I've done a couple of lives where I've just like tinkered around with homebrew that I'm working on, or like worked on one of these Hero Forge characters, and like it's a blast. It's absolutely a blast every time.
Oh, I have to. I'm gonna have to do one while I have. Whenever I have some tame enough homework that I can like half focus on something that
Yeah,
I can be like, come do homework with me, guys. Help me.
yeah. Truly, I could not like sit down and write any of my actual writing and have like anything going on in the background. But anything less than that, I could definitely handle.
Yeah, I don't think I
Um,
do my job and have the camera on me at all. Because I, first of all, I make faces
right.
that I know that nobody needs to see. Those are work faces that only your computer gets to see.
See, Bo Burnham would disagree. He would say you could be getting likes for making those faces.
So, yeah, that's probably true. We'll see.
For sure. I'm
Definitely,
convinced that solidly half of my viewership is just the fact that I can do things with my eyebrows.
I can't. I have like I can only do the angry or the happy, and that's it.
That's very good. That's
Always
very good.
happy or super confused because sometimes I'll be just like, what the hell is that? Very confused face.
Sure. That's good stuff.
My brain buffers a lot, so I would just be like, oh, haha, I do know what that is.
That's great. That's excellent. Cool. Do you have any other questions on your end? My room is dwindling a little bit, but if anyone in my room has questions, feel free.
See, I don't think anybody over here. I got like a couple, maybe like 2 people left over here.
Cool.
If anybody has any questions, you can drop them in the chat, and I will do my best to answer, or we will do our best to answer them, as long as they're
Give
not weird.
everybody. I mean, even if they are weird, like we might spend
Uh,
that time on asking you questions for why you're asking us weird questions. But like,
I mean, yeah, you can try it. It's fine.
yeah. What is your favorite non-magical item in D&D and why?
Hmm. Non-magical items gonna have to be like just a bow staff.
I'm actually really impressed that you have an answer to this question because I true no, but cool. Yeah, bow staves are a
Just
lot of fun.
just a non-magical bow staff, so you can knock the crap out of someone.
You just gotta. There's something really satisfying about getting them on the back end, just in the teeth, right? Like just like that's very gratifying.
Said, what is your name? What's your quest? What is your favorite color?
Okay. I've been owned. Congratulate. I've been nerd sniped. Congratulations. Thank you. Thank you.
That was
Um,
um, Mitchy Kent. Mitchy Kent.
Fantastic. If you follow me, I will follow you back because I have been sniped, and that's very good. Um, uh, cool. Emily's got a question that's not a reference to Monty Python, right? No, not a reference to Monty Python. Should they include zodiac signs in character creation? Bold of you to assume the constellations aren't different, but thoughts?
Yeah, I think that, I mean, because like everybody kind of picks on the alignment scale these days. So like, why not have the zodiac in there? Because oh my god, a bunch of Scorpio tieflings. Holy shit.
I like it. I like it. I like the idea. Like, I get that. How do I want to say this? I get that the constellations might be different. The actual faction stuff might be a little bit different, right? Like the astrology that it's based off of might not be relevant to your world. But I kind of like the idea of like having like sort of slugs of personality backgrounds that actually may contribute to things. That's a potentially very fun thing.
I mean, depending on your pantheon too. If you're doing a homebrew world and you've built your own pantheon, you could always create a sub, zodiac that goes along with your pantheon.
Yeah, and you could get little boons for that. That's
Yeah,
potentially very good. Yeah, I like that a lot. So short answer, I don't know, it's your table. Do what you want to do with it. But
yeah,
longer answer could be fun.
yeah, exactly. Do you have time to write? That's all I have to say because it's going to be a lot.
Yeah, no
'Cause
kidding.
you got to come up
Good
with,
homebrew always is,
yeah.
for sure. Cool. All right. Any other questions? Anything else that we should talk about on this here live? We are definitely running down the clock here.
Yeah, I only have one person in my room, and it's a person that I put there. So.
Fair enough. Okay. Well, I think that's about it on my side as well. Emily says we will be doing another one, and I think the answer to that is probably yes. This was a
Yeah,
lot of fun.
I think I had a good.
Um,
We'll do another one as soon as we get a chance, and maybe like give people some more time for Q&A questions that they can send in
up
and stuff.
front. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm still getting the hang of like actually scheduling things and then actually putting up a thing that says that I'm doing it more than a day in advance. Like it's a whole
I,
thing.
I'm I'm like shocked that I don't have sticky notes that are telling me what to say because sometimes for TikToks I'll write down what
Oh
I need
sure.
to say. Because I'll literally just freeze up. I'm not used to filming myself. It's not something I'm used to doing prior to this. So
Yeah.
um, I have to like give myself cues of like, don't stare down at the book the entire time. You have to look up and say the things. So it'll look,
True.
look up, and I'll go like, oh, I'm supposed to look up at this point, you know. So
Yeah,
there's no note.
no, absolutely.
But if people send in Q&As, I can kind of get an idea of if they're asking me what my favorite monster is. I can pull that up and have the stats sitting there ready so I can read it out to you and tell you what it is, stuff like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Cool. So yes, we will be doing more and we will be better prepared next time and better prepared the time after that because that's how doing things more than one time works.
That's right. But it's been absolutely awesome to
It's
talk
been a
to you.
blast. This has been so much fun. Thank you for taking the time. And yeah, let's do it again real soon. Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Have a great night. I'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody. Thanks for coming.